Have you ever heard the saying, what is meant for you can never pass you by? This is the story of a young maiden, Adanne, whose destiny was almost stolen by jealousy and wickedness. But fate had another plan. Grab your popcorn and stay with me to the very end, because this story will show you that no matter how much people try to hide your light, God will always make it shine. Don't forget to like this story, share it with others, and subscribe if you're just coming across our channel. Turn on your notification bell so you don't get to miss more inspiring folktales like this one. Now, let's dive into the story. Long ago in the peaceful village of Omaka, there lived a man called Okafor. He was a tall, strong farmer whose hands were rough from years of tilling the land. Everyone in the village respected him because he was honest, hardworking, and never cheated anyone, whether in farming or in trade. His yam barns were always full and his palm oil jars lined up neatly like soldiers on parade. But more than his wealth, people admired Okafor because of his family. His wife, Mbeke, was a woman of rare beauty and gentle character. Her voice was soft like the evening flute, and her kindness was known throughout Omaka. She was the kind of woman who would share food with strangers, comfort the sick, and never raise her voice in anger. The villagers often said, Okafor and Mbeke are like the moon and the stars shining together in harmony. Their joy became complete when Mbeke gave birth to a baby girl, whom they named Adanne. From the day she was born, it was clear that she carried the beauty of her mother and the strength of her father. Her skin glowed like fresh palm oil, her eyes sparkled like morning dew, and her laughter echoed like bird song. Okafor's home became a place of laughter and music. At night, Mbeke would sing lullabies as she rocked baby Adanne in her arms, while Okafor told stories of the ancestors under the moonlight. Neighbors would pass by and hear their joy, and envy quietly filled some hearts because the family seemed blessed in every way. But happiness on earth is like a flower. It blooms, but sometimes it withers too soon. When Adanne was about 3 years old, a strange sickness entered the land. It started slowly, like a whisper carried on the wind, but soon it spread from compound to compound. No family was spared. People coughed, burned with fever, and grew weak within days. Healers tried all kinds of herbs. Diviners cast their curries, but the sickness refused to leave. In Okafor's compound, fear walked in like an uninvited guest. Mbeke fell ill. At first, they thought it was an ordinary fever. Okafor gathered the best herbs, prepared hot soups, and sat by her side day and night. He prayed to the gods of their land. He offered sacrifice at the shrine, and he begged the ancestors to spare his wife. But each day, her body grew weaker. One night, as the moon hid behind heavy clouds, Mbeke called for Okafor. Her voice was faint, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "My husband," she said, "take care of our daughter. She is young, but she carries a light within her. Do not let that light be quenched." Okafor held her hands tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Do not speak like this, my wife. You will not leave me. You will rise again." But Mbeke only smiled weakly, her eyes already far away. That night, with the sound of crickets filling the air, she breathed her last. The wailing that followed shook the village. Women gathered, beating their chests. Men stood with bowed heads. Even the trees seemed to droop as if the whole earth was mourning with Okafor and little Adanne. Adanne, still too young to understand, cried and clung to her father's wrapper. She kept asking, "Papa, where is Mama? Why won't she wake up?" Her words pierced Okafor's heart like a spear. From that day, Okafor's home grew quiet. The laughter of Mbeke was gone, and though he tried to smile for his daughter, the burden of raising her alone weighed heavily on him. Still, Okafor did not fail in his duty. He became both father and mother to Adanne. He braided her hair clumsily. He cooked small meals, and in evening, he still told her stories so that her nights would not be filled with sadness. The villagers admired him, saying, "Okafor is a true man. Even in sorrow, he does not abandon his child." Years passed. Adanne grew stronger and more beautiful with each sunrise. She was obedient, respectful, and hardworking. She followed her father to the farm, carried small bundles of firewood, and fetched water from the stream. Whenever she smiled, it was as if her mother's spirit had returned to the earth for a brief moment. But though Okafor loved her deeply, he knew something was missing. A child needed the touch of a woman, the guidance of a mother. He could provide food and shelter, but he could not fill the empty space that Mbeke's death had left. After 5 long years of living alone with Adanne, Okafor made a decision. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned orange, he sat outside his house and whispered to himself, "It is time. My daughter needs a woman's care. I must marry again. The next season, he traveled to a neighboring village and returned with a new wife, More. She was a maiden with smooth skin, sharp eyes, and a smile that could easily deceive. The villagers welcomed her warmly, saying, "At last, Adanne will have a mother again." Okafor himself was relieved. He thought he had chosen wisely. He believed Warrior would bring back laughter in his home and care for his daughter like her own. He did not know that he had opened his doors to a shadow, one that would slowly creep into his family's joy and turn it into sorrow. For at first, Warrior's kindness was only a mask, and though Okafor could not see it, destiny had already begun to weave its threads. At first, when Warrior entered Okafor's home, everything seemed bright. She walked with confidence, her wrapper neat, her hair tied in beautiful styles, and her lips painted with cheerful smiles. To the villagers, she looked like the perfect wife. During her first days, she behaved like a gentle woman. She cooked rich soups, cleaned the compound, and even carried Adanne on her lap, singing songs to her in a soft voice. Okafor's heart rested. He believed he had truly chosen a woman who would heal the wounds of his family. The women of Umaka praised him, saying, "Okafor has wisdom. He has brought home a woman who will mother his child." But sometimes the surface of the water is calm, while strong currents move beneath. As the weeks turned into months, Warrior's sweetness began to fade. She still wore her smiles in public, but inside the compound, her heart grew hard towards Adanne. At first, it was little things. When Adanne made a mistake while sweeping, Warrior scolded her harshly. If food spilled by accident, she would shout, "Clumsy girl, can't you see what you are doing?" Okafor, tired from the farm, often missed these moments. When he was around, Warrior acted kindly, calling Adanne my daughter and pretending to care. But the moment he stepped outside, her eyes turned cold. One night, as Adanne lay on her mat, she overheard Warrior whispering to herself, "Why would this girl be treated like a princess? She is nothing but a shadow in my house. My children will be the shining ones." Adanne trembled slightly, but said nothing. She was only a child, yet she understood that her stepmother did not love her. Not long after, Warrior bore her first child, a strong baby boy. Okafor was overjoyed. He danced around the compound, offering yams and palm wines to celebrate. Warrior smiled proudly, and the villagers congratulated her. But from that moment, her true colors became clearer. All her love and care went to her son, and later to her other children when they came, 2 boys and a girl named Oluchi. Adanne, though the firstborn of the house, was treated like a servant. When Warrior cooked soup, she dished the best meat and fish to her own children, while Adanne received the bony parts. When she bought wrappers from the market, her children wore them fresh, while Adanne was giving old and torn ones. Okafor began to notice, but Warrior was clever. Whenever he complained, she defended herself with sweet words. "My husband," she would say, "you know children are jealous. Maybe Adanne feels neglected, but I love her like my own." Okafor, blinded by trust, believed her. He could not see the sharp claws hiding beneath her gentle voice. As the years passed, Adanne blossomed into a maiden of rare beauty. Her skin glowed, her hair grew long and thick, and her smile melted the hearts of many young men. Suitors began to come from far and near, carrying palm wine, kola nuts, and gifts of yams. Okafor was proud. "My daughter will soon bring honor to this house," he said with joy. But Warrior's heart burned with envy. Each time a suitor came for Adanne, she found a way to destroy the proposal. One day, a wealthy farmer came with his family, asking for Adanne's hand. Warrior met them at the gate with fake smiles. But later, she whispered poisonous lies. "Do not waste your time. That girl is cursed. Her mother died young, and she too will not live long. Take my daughter Oluchi instead. She is strong and healthy." The family believed her words and left. Another time, a trader from a distant village arrived with fine clothes and a basket of cowries, saying he wanted to marry Adanne. Warrior laughed scornfully behind his back and told him, "Do not be fooled by her looks. She is lazy, she cannot cook, and she will bring shame to your household. But my daughter Oluchi, she is the jewel you seek." Again, the man left, never to return. This became Warrior's habit. Every suitor who came for Adanne was driven away by lies and deceit. Meanwhile, she polished Oluchi like a prized calabash, preparing her to receive the best of men. Adanne, though heartbroken, remained quiet. She did not argue or fight. Instead, she prayed silently, whispering to the stars each night, "Mama, can you see me from the sky? They try to dim my light, but I will endure. Please, give me strength." Her patience only made Warrior angrier. To her, Adanne's quiet strength was a challenge, a reminder that no matter how much she tried to push her down, the girl still stood tall. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a bright afternoon. The air was filled with the songs of birds, and the river glistened under the sun. Adanne had gone to fetch water at the stream. There, sitting under the shade of a tree, was a man. His clothes was rough and torn, his canoe tied loosely to the bank, and his basket filled with fishing nets. He looked like a poor fisherman, weary from a hard life. When Adanne greeted him politely, he nodded silently. She thought nothing of it and continued on her way. But Warrior, who had gone to the stream earlier, had already noticed him. Her greedy eyes lit up with wicked ideas. This is perfect, she thought. A fisherman has no wealth, no influence. Let Adanne marry him. She will waste her beauty in poverty, while my Oluchi will rise to greatness. That night, she began to weave her plans, smiling to herself in the darkness. The days in Omaka passed like the flowing river, sometimes calm, sometimes heavy with storm. Adanne was now a grown maiden, tall and graceful, with a beauty that could not be hidden. When she walked through the market square with her clay pot balanced on her head, men stopped to admire her. Even women whispered to each other, "See how fine she is. Surely she will marry a great man." Her beauty was not only in her face, but also in her character. She was gentle, respectful, and hardworking. When others her age spent time gossiping at the stream, Adanne was either helping her father on the farm or caring for her younger siblings. But her stepmother Warrior saw things differently. To her, Adanne's beauty was a threat. She feared that suitors would continue to seek Adanne, leaving her own daughter Oluchi in the shadows. So whenever suitors came, she spread lies and poisoned their minds until they left. Okafor, though he loved his daughter, was often confused. Why do these men keep turning away? He asked himself many times. He did not know that the very woman he trusted was the one destroying Adanne's chances. One afternoon, Adanne went to the stream as usual. The sun was high and the path was dusty under her bare feet. She balanced her water pots carefully, humming a song her late mother used to sing. By the river bank, she saw him again, the fisherman. He was seated quietly, mending his nets. His canoe rested in the shallow water, rocking gently with the waves. His clothes were torn, his hands darkened by the sun, and his face looked tired. To anyone who passed by, he was just another poor man struggling to survive. Adanne greeted him politely, as she always did. "Good afternoon, brother." He lifted his head and gave a small nod. "Good afternoon." There was nothing more. She fetched her water and left, but from behind the trees unseen, Warrior's sharp eyes were watching. That evening, she brought up the matter to Okafor. "My husband," she said sweetly as she set his meal before him, "Adanne is of age. Suitors have come and gone. Yes, none stays. Do you not think it is time she is given to someone before she grows old in your house?" Okafor looked at her thoughtfully. "You speak truth, Warrior, but who do you have in mind?" Her lips curved into a sly smile. "Today I saw a fisherman at the stream. He is a simple man, not proud or boastful. A man like that will humble her. Let her marry him. She will learn endurance, and your burden will be lighter." Okafor frowned slightly. "A fisherman. Do you think he can provide for her?" Warrior quickly replied, "What more does she need than food and shelter? Rich men are proud, but this one is hardworking. He will not leave her hungry. And besides, she will remain close to the river, not too far from us. It is better this way." Okafor was silent for a while. His heart loved Adanne, but his mind trusted Warrior's words. At last, he sighed. "If you say so, I only want my daughter to have peace." When Adanne heard the decision, her heart dropped like a stone into deep water. She sat alone that night, staring at the moon through the thatched roof. "Papa has given me to a man I do not know," she whispered. "Is this truly my destiny, Mama? If only you were here." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she wiped them quickly. Adanne was not the kind of maiden who shouted or argued. She carried her pain quietly, like a pot of water balanced on her head, never letting it spill. Warrior, on the other hand, was full of secret joy. She spread the news quickly around the village. Adanne will marry a fisherman. Yes, a humble man who walks by the river. She is lucky to have found such a match. Her voice sounded like celebration, but inside her heart, she was laughing with mockery. To her, it was the perfect plan. Adanne's beauty wasted on poverty, while Oluchi will shine brighter. The preparations were simple. Unlike other marriages filled with wealth and fanfare, this one was quiet. A few men from the fisherman's side brought palm wine and kola nuts as tradition demanded. Warrior welcomed them with a wide smile, and Okafor gave his blessings, though his face looked clouded with hidden worry. The day of the marriage came. The compound was filled with people, neighbors, friends, and curious onlookers. Drums beat softly, women sang songs, and children clapped their hands. Adanne was dressed in a simple wrapper with coral beads around her neck and wrist. Her beauty still shone, but her eyes were heavy with unshed tears. Her father held her hands for a long time, his voice trembling. Go well, my daughter. May your new home bring you peace. Forgive me if I have failed you. Adanne bowed low, her tears falling to the ground. I will always honor you, Papa. She turned and followed the fisherman. He walked ahead, carrying nothing. The crowd watched as the two of them moved towards the river. At the water edge, the fisherman stepped into his canoe. Adanne followed carefully, not to wet her wrapper. Slowly, he pushed the canoe into the water and began to row. The villagers stood at the shore, waving and shouting. The drums grew faint, the songs faded, and the river carried them away. Adanne sat quietly, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Behind her, she was leaving her father, her childhood, and everything she had ever known. Before her lay a new life, one she could not yet see. Her heart was heavy, but she whispered to herself, I will endure. Whatever lies ahead, I will endure. And so began her journey as the wife of a fisherman. The canoe sliced through the water as the fisherman rowed steadily. Adanne sat quietly, her wrapper gathered tightly around her, the cool breeze brushing her skin. The village noises faded behind them until there was only the sound of water lapping against the boat. After some time, they reached this fisherman's home. It was a small hut built close to the river. Its roof was covered with palm leaves, patched here and there, and the walls were made of mud that had cracked under the sun. Smoke rose faintly from a small kitchen shed, and fishing nets lay scattered on the ground. Adanne's heart grew heavy. She had imagined a husband's home with space, laughter, and warmth, but what stood before her was nothing more than a poor man's hut. Still, she did not complain. She took a deep breath and followed him inside. The fisherman was a man of few words. He pointed to a mat in the corner, saying simply, that will be your place. Then he lay down to rest. Adanne sat on the mat, her clay pot still in her arms, staring at the bare walls. For the first time, the reality of her marriage settled in. Her days soon found a pattern. Before dawn, the fisherman rose, took his net and pushed his canoe into the river. He returned only after the sun was high, sometimes with fish, other times with nothing but tired arms. Adanne spent those hours alone. She swept the compound, fetched water, and tried to make the hut more homely. She washed his nets, patched the torn spots with thread, and cooked simple meals with little food available. There was no luxury, no comfort, only survival. The villagers who lived nearby often stopped by to buy fish. When they saw Adanne, their eyes widened. Is this not Okafor's daughter? They whispered among themselves. How did she become the wife of a poor fisherman? Some pitied her. Others laughed quietly, shaking their heads. Adanne heard their whispers, but she kept her chin high. She greeted everyone politely and never showed her pain. At night, when the fisherman returned empty-handed, he sometimes sat outside, staring at the river in silence. Adanne, seeing his tired face, would bring him a bowl of food and speak gently. Eat, my husband. Tomorrow will be better. The river may refuse you today, but it will not always be so. Her words carried comfort. Slowly, the fisherman began to notice something unusual about her. She was not like other maidens he had seen. No grumbling, no bitterness, no complaints. Even in hardship, she showed patience and dignity. The days turned into weeks. Though Adanne missed her father and longs for the comfort of her childhood home, she began to find small joy in her new life. She planted vegetables near the hut, sang softly while cooking, and sometimes stood by the river, watching the water flow as though it carried her worries away. But far away in Omaka, things were different. Warrior sat proudly in her compound, telling her friends, at last, that girl is gone. Now Oluchi will shine, suitors will come for her, and all good things will belong to my daughter. Oluchi herself smiled, wearing new wrappers and beads that her mother gave her. In their hearts, they believed they had won. The moon had risen high over the river, casting its silver light upon the fisherman's hut. Adanne sat by the doorway, her chin resting on her knees, humming a short tune her mother once sang. Life with the fisherman was not easy, but her heart had grown stronger. Each day she woke before dawn, fetched water, prepared meals, and tended to the small garden she had planted. She washed and mended her husband's fishing nets, and when he returned from the river, she welcomed him with food and a calm smile. Though the hut was poor and the days often hard, she never complained. She reminded herself of her late mother's words, a woman's strength is not in her beauty alone, but in her patience and endurance. The fisherman, whose name was Obinna, had been watching quietly. At first, he thought she might run away or rebel, but instead she showed a heart that surprised him. When the fish were plenty, she thanked him. When his nets came back empty, she still encouraged him. One evening, after a long day on the river, Obinna returned with tired arms and nothing in his basket. He sat on the ground, staring at the water as if it had stolen his strength. Adanne came quietly with a bowl of hot food. "Eat, my husband," she said softly. "The river may be strong today, but tomorrow it may be kind. Do not lose heart." Obinna lifted his head slowly, looking into her eyes. In that moment, he saw something he had not found in many women: genuine kindness, even in poverty. For days, he thought about it. Finally, one night, under the light of the full moon, he called her to sit beside him. "Adanne," he said, his voice deep but gentle. She turned to him, surprised. He rarely spoke much beyond the ordinary. "You have lived with me in this hut. You have endured hardship without complaints. You have treated me with respect, and even when the world thinks I am nothing, for that, I must tell you the truth about who I am." Adanne's heart skipped. She sat quietly, waiting. Obinna stood, and for the first time since she knew him, there was power in his voice. He stepped into the hut, brought out a wooden chest hidden beneath the floor, and opened it. Inside lay garments of silk, ornaments of gold, and a crown wrapped carefully in velvet. He unwrapped it slowly, and the moonlight struck the crown, making it shine like fire. Adanne gasped. She covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes wide with shock. Obinna turned to her. No longer the quiet fisherman she thought she knew. His shoulders straightened, his eyes burned with dignity, and his presence filled the air with authority. "I am not a poor fisherman," he said. "I am Prince Obinna, son of the great king of Unru Kingdom, far across the river. I left my father's palace disguised as a fisherman because I was searching for something greater than wealth, a woman with a true heart, a wife who would love me for who I am, not for what I have." Adanne trembled. Tears filled her eyes. "A prince, and I, your wife." "Yes, Adanne," Obinna said, holding her hands gently. "You are the woman the gods prepared for me. Your beauty is not just on the outside, but in your heart. You are the missing rib I have been searching for." Adanne broke into tears. All the pain, all the mockery, all the suffering she had endured seemed to melt away in that moment. She bowed her head and whispered, "The gods have remembered me." The very next morning, the truth began to unfold. Messengers from the Unru Kingdom arrived, dressed in fine clothes and carrying gifts. Horses stamped their hooves on the ground, and warriors stood tall with shining spears. The poor hut by the river turned into a palace of celebration. Women from the kingdom dressed Adanne in royal attire, adorning her with gold and coral beads. They sang songs of joy, calling her Lolo Adanne, the prince's bride. Back in Omaka, news traveled like wildfire. The drums of celebration thundered, reaching even the ears of Wore and Oluchi. At first, Wore laughed, thinking it was another woman, but when the full truth was spoken, that Adanne, the girl she despised, was now the wife of a prince, her laughter died, her hands trembled, and she fell to the ground. "No, it cannot be," she cried. "The fisherman, a prince, and Adanne, the one I cast away, now a queen." Her heart burned with regret, but it was too late. Oluchi wept bitterly. All the suitors she had once dreamed of now turned their eyes towards Adanne, whose name had spread beyond Omata into many lands. As for Okafor, Adanne's father, he was filled with both joy and sorrow. When he traveled to the Unru Kingdom and saw his daughter seated beside her husband in royal splendor, he fell on his knees and wept. "My child," he said, "forgive me. I trusted the wrong woman and allowed your light to be hidden. But you have risen above it all." Adanne, with her gentle heart, lifted her father up and embraced him. "Papa, I forgive you. You gave me life. Whatever happened, it was destiny. The gods have done their will." From that day, Adanne lived in the palace, honored by all. She never forgot her trials, and she never repaid evil with evil. Instead, she showed kindness even to those who once mocked her. And the people of Omaka learned a powerful lesson. No matter how hard jealousy tries to bury destiny, it will always rise like the sun.